we wanted. There we go. Okay, so now I can do my intro. And let me do that. Okay, welcome everyone to the Growing Greens with Sunlight on State Crimes and Corruption workshop. Director is Rita Maniotis. She is the treasurer of the Wisconsin Green Party and also serves as chair of the Membership Outreach Committee for the Greater Milwaukee Green Party. Welcome, Rita.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to this workshop. And I am joined virtually by Matthew Arndt. He is on vacation with his family, so he recorded his portion, and you will see it later in this presentation. But I'm hoping that by the end of this workshop, you will see that by focusing on state crimes and corruption, we can grow the Green Party. And I'm hoping that you also have something to write notes on because I'm hoping that we learn from each other about some of the resources that you know. But I want to start out with a survey. And I'd like you to put this in the chat. You're going to put a Y for yes or an N for no for these three first statements. Whoops. And I'll read the statements and then you can just put them in a row. You don't have to put numbers down or anything. So Lee Harvey, first one is Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole shooter of JFK, John F. Kennedy. Y or N. Number two, I accept the official story of 9/11. Yes or no? And number three, the U.S. had no part in the creation of COVID-19. And if you put those in the chat, Barbara Dahlgren is going to take a look at those and let us know how you feel. And while she's doing that, we are going to take a look at the general U.S. public, what the general U.S. public feels about these three issues. If you go to 2006 to a Scripps Howard Ohio University poll, you'll see that 42% of people believe that the government had advanced knowledge of the JFK assassination. And 5 years after 9/11, more than a third of people believe that 9/11 was an inside job. You go 10 years later and you see that almost half of people believe that the government was involved in the JFK assassination. And more than half of people believe that 9/11 was an inside job. Now, they watered down the question when it got to almost 10 years later. In 2024, 61% of people believe that more than one person assassinated JFK. And they really watered down the 9/11 question. So about 64% of people believe that American lives had been permanently changed by 9/11. Well, duh. There was one poll that I found about COVID-19 since it's so recent, but more than half of people do not trust the US government's account of the origins of COVID-19. And that poll was done this year. What does our poll say? If we look at the chat, is Barbara Dahlgren unmuted so she could let us know about our poll?
I haven't tallied them all up, but it looks like
mostly?
we've got a wide variety. A lot of no's, a lot of I don't knows,
Oh,
a few
okay.
yeses, no to all three.
And that's what I probably figured because thank you, Barbara. I appreciate it. Because Greens are ahead of the curve in information. And I think one of the reasons why we're ahead of the curve is because we do not rely on mainstream news. We look at independent news. And I just am giving a smattering of some of the independent news sources that I use. Many of them are on YouTube. Some you have to, like the Highwire, you have to go to their website. Black Agenda Report, I get through my email and I'm able to click on that. They have a radio report once a week that comes out on Fridays, actually. The Covert Action Magazine, that's an online magazine. You can go to Substacks. I listen to both conservative and liberal antiwar.com I listen to every day. That comes out of the Libertarian Institute, and they give a comprehensive report every day of the places where the U.S. or there's conflict around the world, but where U.S. is involved especially. So I'm hoping that you have sources that are not listed here, and you will put them in the chat. And we will be saving the chat so that we can all learn from each other about ways to find information that's not mainstream. And even Ralph Nader, his radio show, I didn't put that up here, but I learned on his show about the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs, and I do get that magazine also. So there's even published magazines that are worthwhile taking a look at. So as you're putting those in there, I think I'm going to go to the next slide, which is about another reason why Greens are ahead of the curve on information and suspicion of our government. Because Greens have experienced state corruption. And I want to just go through a few examples. One is that when Greens do well, getting on the ballot or doing well in an election, the laws are changed by the Democrats and Republicans. They get together and they either change the signature requirements, the petition requirements, they bring in their lawyers and challenge our petitions. And they don't have to have proof, but you have to show proof, sometimes within 48 hours, that your signatures are good. Police are used to prohibit lawful collection of signatures, and I've almost been arrested several times in front of a public library collecting signatures. Police are used to detain candidates who should be in debates. If you remember, Jill Stein and Cheri Honkala were detained outside of Hofstra University in 2012 in front of that debate, and they were handcuffed to chairs off-site for 8 hours. Ralph Nader was arrested in 2000, and he had a ticket to sit in the audience. He knew he couldn't be in the debate, but he had a ticket to sit in the audience, and he was arrested at UMass Boston, and he was detained until the proceedings were over. Police, well, besides police detaining candidates, not printing the proper name on the ballot for Green candidates. This happened in Illinois, in Cook County, which is which has a large African American population. They printed Rich Whitney's name on the ballot when he was running for governor as Rich Whitey, printing Green Party ballots in the brown color and the Democratic ballots in a green color for primaries, redistricting Green candidates out of their own districts, allowing school boards the power to decide who can run for the school board. That's how I got thrown off the ballot in a school board race. And excluding data about Green Party election results from their websites. That I see when I was preparing this report. Finally, the prohibited ballot fees. That's why you'll only see two parties on the ballot for president always in Oklahoma, because it costs $10,000 to get on the ballot in Oklahoma. So I did look at three measures of how you could show party growth. One is votes cast for the Green Party, number of Green candidates, and number of registered Greens. And I focused on presidential candidates because I wanted to see if the candidate's focus was on state crimes or corruption, did it grow the Green Party? And I first want to take a look at our very first presidential candidate for the Green Party, Ralph Nader. Now, Ralph Nader made his name at when he wrote that book, Unsafe at Any Speed, in 1965. And this led to the 1966 National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act, which was a huge change in the way government was able to make a change in people's lives because they were able to set safety standards for motor vehicles. And so it actually changed things. So he got a huge reputation of integrity, being able to change things, a mover and a shaker. And he started what was called Nader's Raiders, which was a group of lawyers that investigated the Federal Trade Commission and was able to make changes in parts of government. He started the Public Citizen, all the PERGs, the public research interest groups in many states, if not all the states, and the Centers for Disability Rights, Pension Rights, Auto Safety, Study of Responsive Law. But when he ran for president, and this is in his writings when I found it actually in the Ralph Nader Reader, but this was an address that he gave in 2000 when he was running in 2000. And he called the Democratic and Republican parties the two-party duopoly. And I don't know if he coined that, but he uses it a lot. That they're essentially one corporate party with two heads called Republican and Democratic, each wearing different makeup. He said, as it befits its name, the Green Party, whose nomination I seek, stands for the regeneration of American politics. The new populism, which the Green Party represents, involves motivated, informed voters who comprehend that freedom is participation in power. And he used that's a quote from Cicero. People really loved Ralph Nader because they trusted him. And we don't trust our government these days. I think that at the time, people were questioning, and Ralph Nader gave people trust. So if you look at the votes that he got in 1996, he got 685,000 votes. And look how many he got in 2000. Almost 3 million votes, the most that any presidential candidate for the Green Party has got. And he also motivated Greens to run for office. In 1996, 87 Greens were candidates. We had 282 Green candidates in 2000, and then it raised all the way to 436 in 2004. I want to look at the other presidential candidate that was very focused on state crimes and corruption, Cynthia McKinney. And I am going to put some links in the chat. If you notice, she was the only person in Congress when she was a congresswoman to have a hearing, a really open-ended hearing on 9/11. And she was vilified for that. So that can still be heard. It's on C-SPAN, and I put the links in the chat for parts 1 and part 2. And if you have a chance to listen to that, it's very informative. And it's really part of the Green Party platform. If you notice, if you look at our platform, it says the Green Party calls for a complete, thorough, impartial, and independent investigation of the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, including the role of the administration of George W. Bush, various US-based corporations and interests, and other nations and third parties. So the Green Party was very well aware that the 9/11 Commission report is lacking in many ways. Now, she was ousted from her seat in 2006 and then became the Green Party candidate in 2008. And if you remember, Barack Obama was running in 2008. So there was a lot of interest in his campaign, and it kind of took away from Cynthia McKinney. But she still received 41,000 more votes than David Cobb had in 2004. She also motivated Green candidates. There were 307 Green candidates in 2008, and then after her election, 2 years later, there were 364 Green candidates. I think that Cynthia McKinney didn't receive a lot of recognition for the things that she did while she was in Congress. And I was looking through the 2,903 bills that she either sponsored or co-sponsored, and I was very impressed with her record. So she is still talking talking truth to power and her writings, and since she's left, the books that she has written. So I would encourage people to look into her legacy. I also looked at voter registration to see if voter registration has told us anything about what Greens could be focusing on and what maybe what people are hungry for. So only 30 states allow people to put down their party, and the District of Columbia also allows voters to register by party affiliation. A few of the states you have to request information, so I didn't get anything from them. Most of the states only listed the Green Party under the huge caption of other, so I couldn't get information from them. And some states only show party affiliation if your party is established. So therefore you can't. So these are the states I could get information from. And I was shocked to see how California, Oregon, Maine, these states have very few green voters, green registered voters compared to years in the past, especially the last 2 cycles. California used to have way over 100,000 green registered voters, and now they have less than 80,000, and and the Peace and Freedom Party, they have over 150,000. So I was really shocked to see that. Maine has gone down and Oregon has also gone down. The only states where the Green Party is rising is these 4 states: West Virginia, New Jersey, Kentucky, and we'll call Washington, D.C. a state today. So those are the 4 places where the Green Party numbers of registered voters have risen. And I think that we need to be the trusted party. We need to be the party that is anti-corruption and is exposing state crimes. There are so many areas that we could be covering and that are known right now to be scandals that the U.S. has been involved in: overthrowing governments, assassinations, domestic actions. If you notice the underlined one, the nuking citizens in Ohio, that I just learned about in the last month, and I put that link in the chat too. This was from an investigative reporter who reported on Night of the Experts, which is done once a month by the Nuclear Energy Information Service in Chicago. And he exposed the U.S. documents that showed that this nuclear reprocessing plant in Ohio, anytime it got too hot, they would just release cesium out of their smokestack and poison the surrounding communities. So these are things that the Green Party needs to inform our citizens or the general public about, but also the Green Party members, and become the party that people rely on for information. But in addition to state crimes, I also wanted to talk about us exposing crimes that are actually legalized. So Matthew Arndt, who is an expert in finance, and he has worked at the Chicago Board of Trade in Illinois, where he grew up. He now lives in Wisconsin, and he runs a couple of businesses in tax accounting and financial advising. And he is going to do a little presentation on the kind of presentation that the Greens need to be doing for each other on legalized corruption, which he calls private equity as legalized corruption. So I'm going to click on his link and have him explain this to you, and take notes as you wish. Go ahead, Matthew.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Matthew Arndt. I've spent nearly 30 years working in finance on the inside, and that has given me a front row seat to see how the system actually works. It tore down the fairy tales we're taught in business schools, those clean case studies and polished theories that conveniently ignore power, inequality, and who the game is really rigged for. Today, I want to talk about private equity, or as I like to call it, how a handful of ultra-wealthy assholes figured out how to quietly buy up America using other people's money, strip it for parts, bleed it dry, and walk away richer while your cousin gets laid off your healthcare premiums go up, and your rent keeps climbing. So buckle up. We're diving into a world of debt-fueled takeovers, vanishing pensions, and why your favorite store from the 90s is now a spirit Halloween. So what do crappy service, unaffordable housing, rising costs, bankruptcies, mass layoffs, and stagnant wages all have in common? More often than not, they trace back to the same source: aggressive private equity buyouts and ruthless cost cutting in critical industries. Most people don't even know what private equity is. Its fingerprints are everywhere. They quietly buy up hospitals, housing, newspapers, grocery stores, retail chains, then saddle them with debt, strip out the value, and bleed them dry. This isn't investing. This is vampire capitalism. Jobs vanish, prices surge, services collapse, and entire communities are left to rot. I'm here to tell you that private equity is one of the most powerful, least understood forces in our economy, and it's not just threatening workers or neighborhoods, it's eroding the foundation of democracy itself. Private equity sounds great in theory. They say they buy struggling companies, fix them up, create value, and sell them for profit. Sounds noble, right? That's the myth. Private equity firms want you to see them as financial first responders, saving companies, streamlining operations, and injecting smart capital. In reality,
Rita, you muted. We can't hear you. You have to remain unmuted.
goal isn't to build, it's to flip. And here's the kicker. Even if the acquired company fails, private equity still cashes out through management fees, dividends, and other tricks. They're not in it to save businesses. They're here to strip them for parts, like house flippers, but with nursing homes and grocery stores. So how do they do this? At the heart of nearly every private equity deal is an LBO, a leverage buyout. Here's how it works. The private equity firm buys a company, but instead of using its own money, it borrows most of it, usually 80% or more. Then it loads that debt onto the acquired company it just bought. This isn't like buying a business. It's like making the business acquire itself. The acquired company now has to pay off that mountain of debt, not the private equity firm. This one move, which is absolutely key, is what makes the model work. It's about maximum control and minimum risk for the private equity firm. Once the deal closes, the private equity firm piles on the fees. A 2% management fee every year, no matter what. A 20% cut of the profits, also known as carried interest, if they sell at a gain. Plus consulting fees, transaction fees, advisory fees, all paid by the acquired company, not the private equity firm. Then comes the cost cutting. Jobs slashed, wages frozen, pensions gutted, corners cut on maintenance and safety, anything to squeeze out short-term cash flow. They'll also start selling off assets, real estate, equipment, even intellectual property, just to pull out more money. This can happen within months of the buyout. And if the company fails, no problem for the private equity firm. They have already made money on fees, dividends, and asset sales. The workers, suppliers, and communities are left holding the bag. And if the collapse is big enough, taxpayers step in to clean up the mess. If private equity bought your home, it would go something like this. Imagine someone buys your house, but instead of using their own money, they take out a massive mortgage and put it in your name. Then they start charging you rent to live in your own house. They stop fixing the plumbing, rip out and sell the copper wiring, and bill you for lawn care. And when the place is falling apart, they sell all your appliances, your antiques and collectibles and anything else of value, then walk away with a suitcase of cash, and you're left holding the debt and a ruined home. That's a leverage buyout. And in the private equity world, that move isn't criminal. It's considered brilliant. This isn't capitalism, it's extraction. Capitalism is supposed to reward risk, innovation, and value creation. Private equity does none of that. It takes functioning companies, drowns them in debt, extracts value, and leaves behind a shell. Even in failure, they win. This isn't investing, it's strip mining, and it should be illegal. Another way to look at it, it's financial alchemy in 4 steps. This is how private equity turns borrowed money into profit by shifting the risk, extracting the value, and leaving the mess behind. Number 1, borrow in the acquired company's name. Place the debt on the acquired company's books, not your own. Number 2, launder the debt. Money flows in as debt and magically comes out as transaction fees, management fees, and dividends paid from the issuance of new debt. Number 3, extract returns. This borrowed money flows out to the private equity firm as if it's profit. Number 4, leave the risk behind. The company is now saddled with debt, struggling to survive, and often headed for layoffs or bankruptcy. Once again, it's not value creation, it's value extraction. They turn debt into dividends and call it investment success. They don't create anything of value. Yes, some private equity firms improve companies, invest in growth, and sometimes they might even create something of lasting value. But this is rare and not the deals we're talking about. The exception does not excuse the rule, and the rule is broken. Private equity isn't always about destruction, it's often about control. For example, private equity owns vast portfolios of single-family homes, multifamily apartment buildings, office buildings, warehouses and logistics centers, strip malls, and retail centers. They also own huge shares of specialized sectors like healthcare, real estate, and manufactured housing. They own many nursing homes, hospitals, and medical office buildings. And in addition, trailer parks have become a high-margin asset class for private equity. The big players include Blackstone, Brookfield, KKR, the Carlyle Group, Starwood Capital, among others. Private equity isn't just buying companies. They're buying our neighborhoods, our clinics, and commercial districts. When housing becomes a spreadsheet asset, families lose financial stability and communities lose control. They have bought up tens of thousands of houses across the country, outbidding local buyers like young families with all cash offers and turning these homes into rental properties. In some metro areas, these institutional investors own over 20% of all single-family rentals. And what are the results? Rising rents and reduced maintenance, evictions, especially during downturns, focus on short-term returns over community stability, leverage acquisitions that lead to distress and downturns, especially in commercial property. And as private equity dominates residential and commercial real estate, prices and rents decouple from local wages and conditions. Homes become investment vehicles, not places to live. Market forces give way to institutional pricing power. Private equity and rental real estate is pure rent seeking. They don't build or improve, they acquire, raise rents, cut service, and extract income simply by owning. It's not housing to them, it's a yield strategy. Rent seeking is a system where the powerful use their position not to create value, but to extract wealth from others without contributing anything productive in return. It's not about building, innovating, or improving. It's about owning access, whether to housing, land, licenses, patents, monopolies, or government favors, and charging others to use it. Think of it like this. A landlord raises rent just because they can, not because they improve the property. A drug company patents a life-saving medicine and jacks up the price, not because it costs more to make, but because they control access. A private equity firm buys a utility and raises rates while cutting service, not to provide better energy, but to boost returns. In rent-seeker economics, the economy shifts from value creation to value extraction. This is where the U.S. economy is today. The rich get richer by skimming off the top, while everyone else pays more for less. I'll say it again. It's not value creation, it's value extraction. So what does all this look like in the real world? Beloved brands, essential services, and entire industries gutted for short-term profit. This is what happens when private equity is allowed to do what it does best. Load companies with debt, strip them for parts, and walk away rich, no matter the damage left behind. Let's look at the wreckage. Jo-Ann Fabrics, bankrupt. Toys R Us, dead. Payless Shoes, gone. Radio Shack, adios. Local newspapers, ghosted. Hospitals, shuttered. Apartments and rental homes, snatched up by faceless firms that jack up rents and ignore repairs. Aspen Dental, still technically alive, but rated 1 to 2 stars and drowning in complaints about overpriced services, shady billing, and corporate upselling. Let's take a look at a few of these in more detail. Jo-Ann Fabrics was acquired by Leonard Green & Partners, a private equity firm known for aggressive debt practices that have tanked more than a few companies. Jo-Ann filed for bankruptcy in 2024, closing all stores and firing 19,000 employees. Despite investing just $400 million, Leonard Green & Partners reportedly extracted up to $3 billion in fees and dividends. Oh, and Leonard Green & Partner, they were also behind the 2024 bankruptcy of the Container Store and the collapse of Prospect Medical Holding, which ran dozens of hospitals and clinics across our country. Toys R Us, bought in 2005 by Bain Capital partner Mitt Romney's old firm. Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in 2017 and shut down U.S. operations in 2018, killing 33,000 jobs. It died under the weight of debt it never had a chance to outrun. Aspen Dental, owned by private equity firms Lloyd Green & Partners, Harris Management, and American Securities. In 2021, the state of Massachusetts sued Aspen Dental for deceptive practices, including bait and switch advertising schemes. This was the second time the state had gone after Aspen Dental. Aspen Dental has paid $1.7 million in state settlements across Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New York, and Indiana. Meanwhile, those same private equity firms have pulled out over $1.1 billion in debt-funded dividends from the company since 2012. Shitty service, deceptive billing, legal trouble, but $1 billion in profits for the owners. And these are just a few of the casualties. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories like these, where private equity firms show up, extract what they can, wreck what's left, and move on. From nursing homes and pet hospitals to call centers, colleges, grocery chains, newspapers, and more. The model stays the same. Load it with debt, slash it to the bone, and get paid no matter what. This isn't just a national issue. It's hitting us here at home. Milwaukee has seen firsthand what happens when private equity moves in. Long-standing businesses gutted, jobs lost, and communities left behind. Here are just two examples of the local impact. Shopko, was acquired in 2005 by Sun Capital Partners, a private equity firm, for around $1.1 million and declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January 2019 and liquidated despite Sun Capital turning a profit. Workers suffered while Sun Capital extracted value and walked away wealthier. Bush Precision, a family-run Milwaukee machine shop for over 110 years. It was bought by Michigan-based private equity firm Blue Water Equity Partners and then abruptly closed, leaving all employees jobless. Job losses are baked into the model. Private equity firms claim that they streamline operations, which really means firing people fast to boost short-term profits. Studies show buyouts reduce jobs by 13% on average and up to 30% in some industries within the first 2 years. Wages and hours also take a hit. Survivors often face frozen pay, slashed hours, and replacement by part-time or contract labor to dodge benefits. Burnout skyrockets and service quality plummets. Benefits get gutted, healthcare plans shrink, retirement contributions vanish, pensions often raided or erased entirely, even after decades of work. To service debt, companies cut training and maintenance, leading to more injuries, worse care, and unstable workplaces where workers are disposable. Private equity doesn't just wreck businesses, it guts entire communities. When grocery chains go bankrupt, they leave behind food deserts. When workers lose their jobs, they often lose pensions and back pay, and the burden falls to taxpayer-funded safety nets. Many end up on unemployment, food stamps, welfare, or worse, homeless. Hospitals close, especially in rural areas and underserved areas. Nursing homes cut staff and care. Private equity-owned nursing homes experience 11% higher death rates, leading to over 1,000 unnecessary deaths a year. When private equity destroys a local employer, it doesn't just erase jobs, it erases relationships, creativity, and capability, reducing people's lives to line items on a spreadsheet. The wealth once rooted in our communities is siphoned off to Manhattan and London, while we're left with empty storefronts, shuttered hospitals, and broken lives. I've heard people say, what's the big deal? These companies would have gone under anyway. That might be partly true. Some of these businesses, not all, may have eventually struggled and eventually disappeared. But private equity doesn't just let a company fail. It accelerates and amplifies the collapse. They load it with way more debt, strip its assets, and cash out early. What could have been a manageable decline or restructuring turns into a full-blown catastrophe. Massive layoffs, gutted pensions, shuttered locations, and entire communities left reeling. It's not that failure is impossible. It's that private equity makes the landing as hard and harmful as possible for everyone else. Some people may believe they are not impacted by private equity, but ultimately taxpayers pay the price. When private equity wrecks a company, guess who foots the bill? You do. When workers lose jobs, taxpayers cover the fallout. Unemployment, Medicaid, food stamps, all the public safety nets absorb the damage. Toys R Us laid off 33,000 workers with no severance. Taxpayers picked up the tab. Cities lose revenue and communities get hollowed out. Empty storefronts kill property and sales tax revenue. Home values decline, and local governments often gave these firms tax incentives or development subsidies they'll never get back. And when private equity deals go bust, pensions suffer losses and public retirement systems lose money. But private equity firms keep their fees regardless. Bottom line, private equity gets rich up front. When the collapse comes, they vanish. We're left holding the bag. It's socialism for the billionaire class and rugged capitalism for everyone else. People often ask, why do business owners sell to private equity? Owners may want to take chips off the table after years of building the business. Private equity offers a large upfront payout, and understandably, this is hard for a business owner to turn down. Many small and mid-sized businesses have no succession plan. Private equity offers a clean exit or phase transition out of the business. This is especially appealing when there's no next generation ready to take over. Many owners are sold a dream, only to see their legacy gutted. Business owners are often sold on a strategic partnership pitch, promises of growth, resources, and expertise. But what they don't realize is that it's often the first step in losing control of everything they built. Once private equity cuts costs, loads debt onto the company, extracts dividends and fees, what looked like a partnership can quickly become control without consent. Many owners regret selling when they see longtime employees laid off and the brand and reputation destroyed. None of this is an accident. The system was rigged to allow this. In the 1980s, Reagan-era regulators looked the other way while Wall Street weaponized junk bonds, which are risky, high-interest debt, to fund leverage buyouts. It turned debt into a business model and gave rise to modern private equity. In the 1990s, Clinton-era rule changes let pension funds pour billions into private equity, fueling its rapid growth. The National Securities Market Improvement Act of 1996 stripped away state oversight, letting private equity firms raise more money faster with less regulation. Then there's the carried interest loophole. Still alive today, this tax break lets private equity executives pay lower tax rates than their assistants by classifying income as capital gains instead of wages. Private equity doesn't just rig the economy, it rigs the system. Private equity firms and their lobbyists spend millions every year to protect tax breaks like the carried interest loophole and to block oversight. They recruit ex-politicians and regulators, and in return, many officials go to work for private equity after leaving office. And the money flows to both parties. Mitt Romney co-founded Bain. Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman is a top donor to both parties. Democrats and Republicans alike take their checks, host their fundraisers, and join them post-office. George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton both went to work in private equity after leaving office. And since private equity manages trillions in pension funds, even public unions and state treasurers are financially tied to their success and less likely to push back and often look the other way. With minimal transparency and no public shareholders, private equity flies under the radar, out of sight, out of reach, and deeply embedded in power. They don't just game the market, they own the rule book and the referees. Private equity's looting has gone on long enough. It's time to shut down their scams, stop their debt-fueled takeovers, and hold them accountable. These reforms aren't optional. They are urgent and necessary to save our economy and protect working people. Number one, end the carried interest tax scam. Carried interest is the ultimate tax scam for the ultra wealthy. It lets private equity and hedge fund managers take millions in compensation and pretend it's an investment, just to dodge taxes the rest of us have to pay. They call it skin in the game, but it's not their money at risk. They take a cut of profits from other people's capital. They pay half the tax rate a teacher, a nurse, or a firefighter does on their paycheck. This loophole doesn't reward risk, innovation, or hard work. It rewards proximity to money and power. It costs taxpayers billions, fuels income inequality, and undermines trust in the system. If we can't close a loophole this obvious, who is the tax code really written for? Number 2, ban leverage buyouts. This is an easy one. Turning debt into profit while leaving ruin behind. That's not capitalism. It's corporate alchemy and theft. Number 3, cut off taxpayer subsidies for job killers. No public contracts, bailouts, or tax breaks for private equity owned firms that slash jobs, gut benefits, and destroy communities. Number 4, tie profits to risk. Private equity profits, whether companies win or fail. That removes any incentive to play fair and invites reckless, harmful risk taking. Winning no matter what is not capitalism, it's a rigged game. Number 5, ban private equity takeovers in critical sectors. Healthcare, housing, education, and infrastructure aren't casinos. Keep them out of private equity hands. Number 6, end shadow gains with transparency. Require private equity firms to disclose ownership, fees, and debt to prevent secret abuses. More importantly, make the private sector subject to FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. Currently, FOIA only applies to federal agencies, not to private companies, even if they do business with the government. And number 7, enforce antitrust laws like we mean it. Break up monopolies and block mergers that kill competition and raise prices. None of this is radical. It's common sense to protect everyday Americans, workers, communities, and the economy. Here's the bottom line. Private equity is not investing in the economy. It's harvesting it for parts. They make billions loading companies with debt, cutting jobs, selling off assets, and cashing out before the collapse. The public pays the price through lost jobs, gutted pensions, higher rents, worse healthcare, and broken communities. It's not capitalism. It's corporate racketeering and white-collar organized crime. And worse, this concentration of money and power doesn't just hollow out businesses. It destroys democracy itself. When the wealthy control the rules and the politicians, democracy becomes a game rigged to serve their interests, silencing the voices of everyday people. If we don't rewrite the rules, they won't stop until the country is unrecognizable, owned and gutted, and sold for parts. Left unchecked, private equity will keep hollowing out the economy until there is nothing left to loot, not even the shell of a middle class. What we can all do. Number 1, we can call our reps. Support laws that put boundaries on private equity. Even if most of them are in private equity's pocket, they still need to hear from you. Pressure creates cracks. Share your stories. This stuff thrives in silence, and your voice breaks the cover. And follow watchdogs like Americans for Financial Reform, who are keeping score while the rest of us are distracted by the next headline. Thanks for hanging in there. Questions, rants, horror stories of your own, please email me. And if you want to go deeper, read Plunder by Brendan Ballou or Bad Company by Megan Greenwell. It's like pulling back the curtain on a financial horror show. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Matthew Arndt's presentation, and this is an example of the kinds of things that I believe that the Green Party should be doing to inform our members and to help the greater, give the Green Party the reputation of being the party that is against corruption. And let's see, let me go to my proposal. I believe that the Green Party needs a national committee that is dedicated to exposing state crimes and corruption. The Green Party State Crimes and Corruption Committee, or the GPSCCC, would attract Greens from across the country. It would also attract disaffected voters and party dropouts who distrust the government and who believe that the government is so corrupt, there's nothing we can do about it. It would attract people who have or want to work on exposing these issues. It would help promote collaborations with other parties and organizations that are already working on these issues. And it would establish the Green Party as the place to go for information on state crimes and corruption. The other parties can't do that because they're too intertwined with corporations. And so the Green Party is really the only place where it's the only party that doesn't, the only national party that doesn't take corporate money. So we are in a position to do this. The committee would, I'm a member of GPACs, and this is what GPACs does. They offer webinars. We could offer a webinar like you saw the sample provided by Matthew Arndt. It would provide resources for seekers of information on these topics on a website, and it would produce statements for use by the party as well as Green Party candidates and office holders. So I think that the Greens are in the best position to be the watchdog party, to call ourselves the watchdog party, the anti-corruption party, and to blow the whistle on these issues. Already in independent media, there are a lot of people in independent media who, even though they don't say they're in the Green Party, they promote voting outside of the two-party duopoly and often mention the Greens. And so I believe that if we have this reputation, more independent media people will reference us, tell people to go to our website, talk about the Green Party, and use Green Party speakers on their programs. So the Green Party is really in the best position to do that because the other two parties are just whistling the same corporate note. And I got this cartoon from Mark Taylor, who's in Wisconsin, and you're welcome to go to his website. He has lots of fun cartoons that you can use free of charge. So that is my main comments, and we have plenty of time for people to weigh in. I'd like to see in the chat whether or not you would like to see a national committee that focuses on state crimes and corruption, and we'll open it up for people to comment. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see each other better. And if we open it up to the gallery, and people want to either ask questions in the chat, or if you would like to make comments and raise your hand or say stack, either way is fine.
You want me to take the questions? I see some raised hands, or do you want to do that yourself?
Sure. I mean, they can just unmute themselves and we can recognize them. I see Jackie. Why don't we go first to Jackie and then we'll go to Chuck?
Yes.
Jackie Devenham from Maine.
I just wanted to say that all these things that we're talking about right now are very, very important. But I think one of the things that really needs to be brought forward is all the corruption that happens against the Green Party by the two-party system. For instance, keeping us out of the debate when we had a candidate who was on enough ballots to have been elected along with electoral counts, working against us when we work, trying to make the changes to make it less hard for us to get on the ballot, because we all know that they have been made that way. It is not like something that's across the board. This is how it is in every state. So I think that's one of the things that if you form this committee, we should also be looking at as far as corruption goes, because it does affect our party greatly. And the thing that's always upset me is that all these progressives in the Democratic Party have never once stood up and said, why aren't these third parties being heard? Why are they on my ballot and I can't even see them or hear them in the debate? So it's across the board. Thank you.
I agree. They always figure out a way to keep our voice out of the dialogue. And I think that people are getting wise to that. Although they're just too afraid to move away from the parties that do have a voice. That's what I see. So we have to find other ways to give our party a voice. Chuck, you were next. Are you still interested in speaking, or is there somebody else in line?
Yeah, he actually raised his hand first.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so I like the idea of a committee, and I made a post in the chat that a committee against corruption and state crimes and vampire capitalism is really a committee for accountability. But however this gets framed out, I think calling out like you're suggesting is a great idea. What does it take to accomplish such a thing?
according to the bylaws that I looked into, national bylaws for committees, I think it's just a matter of putting it before the national committee and having a vote on it, giving a proposal, coming up with a proposal, and then having a vote on it. That's what I know. If somebody else has more information about that, please speak up.
That's
So-
correct.
That is correct. Okay.
And I'll just say I think the Green Party could grow its ranks, and I think you made a really strong case. You know, going back to Ralph Nader is a really powerful, and pointing out the obvious. Although people think the state crimes are like hidden and secret and conspiracy theory and blah blah blah. But you cited the platform for the 9/11 business. It's all right there. Greens I feel, could grow its ranks, our ranks, by appealing in the way you're suggesting. And I think I really commend your presentation. Very powerful and compelling. And the combo between Matthew's indictment on vampire capitalism and then your general review, you nailed it. I hope this can go someplace. Good luck getting it through the program and the process.
Well, it needs support from several states, I believe, in order to pass the national committee. And I know that there are people in the party that are interested in working on these issues. Many people. There are people in Wisconsin. There are people in Oregon, and there are people in Illinois. I know that they're interested in working on these issues, and so I do believe that there is the energy out there and the manpower to do it. I think what people are afraid of is to have the Green Party labeled as a conspiracy theory organization. And I think we have to just get over that because it's just propaganda. It's the more that people are exposed to facts and information, I think the more credible we will be and trustworthy as a party. So then it just reflects badly on the people that are casting aspersions on us, because I think a lot of people know that the government is not telling us the truth most of the time. Other people that have comments about this, negative or positive?
M has her hand raised.
Go ahead.
M?
Hi. Yeah, thanks. I mean, one concern that I had right with the opening was like, oh no, is this going to be a conspiracy theory kind of thing? But then it quickly got to its main focus, which I think was excellent. Just things for people to think about. Well, discernment is key, and especially with some of the media sources. I think it's fine to look at a full spectrum of sources, just basically to see what people are saying. But discernment is key, the ability for critical thinking, looking for facts, not talking points, and being able to document. And sometimes you won't be able to do that because things are not transparent. So in terms of looking from the angle of state corruption and state crimes, I think transparency is key. And if that's one of the if that's one of the focal points, then I think that's good. And just sort of like want to point out that all of us are humans, and you have a tendency to associate with people who may think about this on one particular topic. You're right in line, but you're not in line on a different topic, which happens within parties. It happens with families. But avoid like name calling and stuff. But the conspiracy theory label is like, if you stay focused on the transparency and say, like, these are the facts, this is what happened. The Green Party never said 911 was an inside job. The Green Party said, let's do an investigation and find out who knew what when, kind of thing. That, I think those were like Cynthia McKinney's words, who knew what when. And just a lot of times people will misconstrue a factual statement into something that's not factual. And I don't want to keep rambling, but there's so much stuff that the Green Party could be in front on, like these leveraged buyouts things. That happens. That's happening daily in cities and towns, in villages across, maybe not, well, cities and towns across the country. And I'll finish by saying, in terms of a new committee, my only concern is that the committee, how many other committees would these potential corruption committee or accountability committee members also be serving on, in terms of stretching your time to a degree that you can't be as effective as you want to be. And I think all of us who are in this meeting and at the national meeting face that issue, is that we're involved in multiple things. And can you be effective? Those are like individual decisions, but if it affects a group, you have to think about those things. So sure. I'll just leave those comments. And thank you very much for this. I very much liked this workshop.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you're next.
Okay, would you be able to call it something less negative and like, oh God, are we gonna have to go sit around and gripe, and make it more of the positive, let's get something done, like the Accountability and Transparency Committee, the Integrity and Innocence Committee, the Integrity and Transparency Committee, the Accountability and Innocence Committee. Can we have a vote? I'll put these in the chat.
Please do.
Thanks, over.
Thank you for your suggestions. Barbara Laxon.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to mention the Interstate webinar is having a webinar on August 5th, Wednesday, at I think it's 8 or 8:30. And I will be talking, the webinar is on toxins, and I'll be talking about the toxic nature of the oil and gas industry, but also about all toxicants, yeah, all about the corruption in the oil and gas industry.
And you put how we can get to that in the chat?
Well, I didn't actually put the link, but I can look for it and try to do that.
That would be great. Or the website we can go to where we can find the link. That would be helpful. Because I would love to participate in that. Lois?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest that on this particular issue, I think it's been going on long enough that it's really affecting a lot of people's lives. The housing crisis is real and people are really dealing with it. And I think if we were to be the ones who made a big issue out of it, I think people would take that very seriously. I don't think that they would think it was conspiratorial at all. It might be something that would really spark people to look at us a little bit more closely.
I agree. And I'm hoping that Matthew Arndt decides to run for Congress. He has been talking about it, running for Congress in his district, where they only run a Republican. They don't even put a Democrat on the ballot. And he has been very critical of him for his financial stances. So I think that it could be part of people's campaigns, especially those that are running for Congress or for Senate, U.S. Senate, because I think that I'm not sure, I haven't asked him, but I'm not sure what you can do on a state level for these issues.
Rita, real quick, you have 7 minutes.
Yes,
Okay,
I know.
yeah.
Yes, and so I'm opening up for any more comments about this. I would love to know what people would like a committee like this to tackle first. What do you think that somebody mentioned that we should talk about this legalized corruption of private equity, but what other issues do you think would be important for us to investigate and have people focused on? You know, right now, everybody's focused on the Epstein files, and it's captured the mainstream news and all the independent news. Everybody's talking about it, and they're just not going to let it go. This is the kind of thing we would love the Green Party, if the Green Party could capture the American media and American minds on a certain issue, that would be wonderful. Nick Lanada, it has a hand up from Maui. Did I say your name right? Sorry.
No, Nikhil Ananda. Just
Nikhil
pronounce it.
Ananda, thank you.
Just pronounce it like the letters are, Nikhil Ananda.
Okay.
Rita, brilliant presentation. I think, or I feel that the comments by numerous people are all excellent and they don't stand by themselves. So you just planted a seed. I was just in a workshop just before this that David Cobb gave, and that opened my mind to something different. So as a 30+ year member and activist and candidate with the Green Party, this is a seed. We're not the only answer, but it appears that we may be. I really appreciate you talked about Nader. He's over 90 years old and he's still every day writing things that blow my mind, his visionary. So I could go on. I just think that some of the, having a committee within the Green Party, but that's not the answer. The answer is to change what Matthew was talking about. I'm not sure if Matthew running for office is the way to go, but maybe it is. So anyway, thank you for a brilliant presentation. Last thing that I thought someone said something that maybe did get me, and that is the first 3 questions did throw me off at the beginning. And so maybe rearrange that, because when it got to Matthew's presentation, and not like you haven't given great information, his was like just so visionary. So anyway, thank you. Sorry for rambling, and aloha.
Thank you. All right, we definitely are going to save the chat, and people can still comment. I just wanted to make sure that you know that we are going to save the chat, and people can use this for, I do believe it's also saved with the video, but I'm going to make sure that it is available.
Can you put a link to where we can sign up? Because you're going to need about 100 people to get it going.
Oh, yes. I mean, first of all, we need to have, I definitely want to, if you're interested in being part of this or, supporting this, if you would put your information in the chat so that I can contact you. And, because we have to get a proposal together for the National Committee in order to, you know, get a committee started like this. And I would love to, you know, work on the title. It doesn't have to be state crimes and corruption, but something catchy. Like GPACs is great because you know what it is. It's the Peace Action Committee. But we would like to have something catchy.
Just a couple real quick things. One, if anybody wants to, you still can do it. If you go to your the captions and you say view full transcript at the bottom, it allows you to save it, and you can save it, and it does include Matthew's speech. So just letting you know that that is one quick way to have it right away. And then also Nick Nanda has raised his hand again.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add to Diane and Rita and to people that asked. I believe that the National Committee saves all of these. So the video, this presentation is available. Someone asked that in the chat. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. And you can get Matthew Arndt's, you can go to YouTube and find Matthew Arndt's presentation because that's where I uploaded it. And I'm sorry, I couldn't, for some reason, it wouldn't go full screen the whole time. And it did when I was practicing, but it didn't today. So I really appreciate everybody being here. We have a couple of minutes left for final comments. I appreciate your support. Anybody that is interested, please put your information in the chat, and I'm going to save the chat. Actually, before you end this, Diane, I definitely want to save the chat because I don't have the ability to save the chat right now.
Well, I'm saving it so I can always send it to you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess I'll say in our closing, this ends our workshop. Thank you, Rita, and thanks to all of you who attended. We'll leave it open for a little while so that people can save the chat or can save the transcript of the voice things. So captions.
Oh, there's even more.
By the way, Rita, just to let you know, if you go to the chat thing, if you can even see the chat at all, there's a 3 dots at the top on mine anyway. And you go onto those, and the first option is save chat. So you can try that.
For some reason, I'm not seeing those 3 dots.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. There it is. There it is. Got it.
And anybody else can do the same thing.
Wonderful.
Okay, so everybody save the chat. Everybody save the transcript who wants to save the transcript. I guess we'll go ahead and shut down. Anything else anybody else wants? You're very welcome.
Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Thank you so much.
All right. You can stop the
recording. Diane and Rita, great presentation.
Oh yeah, recording. I've got to stop how to
stop the recording.
Let's stop the recording first. Okay, here we go. Stop recording.